So today I'm going to be doing a continuation of my I had a baby story. If you are new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button right down there. That's where it is. Yeah, you see it, you see it. And right next to it is a bell notification button. Go ahead and hit that too. Ding ding. That will let you know when I drop a new video. So let's get into the story. So on part 1, I talk about my pregnancy journey up until the birth of my son. So let's see, where I left off was I had given birth, C-section, and I started to touch on my fluid issue. So before I get into that, if you haven't seen I Had a Baby part 1, the link is going to be right up here. So go ahead and click on that and watch that, and then come back to this video. So the fluid issue, let me see, I started noticing like my hands and my feet swell up pretty bad towards my 7th to 8th month of my pregnancy. I didn't think too much of it then, because I thought like, well, don't all pregnant women swell up? I've seen pregnant women feet all, you know, thick and swollen, and legs all thick and swollen, hands and stuff like that. So I'm thinking, I mean, it's just a part of pregnancy. So my OB just basically told me to lift my feet up when I can, you know, stay off of them as much as I possibly can. And I was working back then. I worked until my 8th month. Yeah. So during the day I did a lot of walking. So when I got home, my feet looked like loaves of bread. But you know, it is what it is. That was a part of it. So fast forward to the hospital. I had my child, C-section, lost a lot of blood, 2 liters, had a bunch of blood clots. I had to go back in for a procedure. I think it was called a DNC, and they got all the rest of the blood clots out. And so after that, I was good, or at least so I thought. So I spent the rest of my time in the hospital, and I came home. I was home for about 2 to 3 days, and I knew that I was not feeling good. I thought maybe it was just temporary. Maybe this is just a part of giving birth. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's normal. So I tried to, you know, tough it out and try to wait and see if it was gonna pass, and it did not. So I had a feeling of heaviness and tightness of my chest, and it was kind of making it hard for me to breathe, basically. So by the 3rd day, I was like, you know what? I can't take this anymore. Like, what if it really is an issue? So I finally told my husband, and then he was like, okay, let's monitor it for a little bit longer. Let's see. And then I was like, it's not any better. I'm gonna have to go back to the hospital. So we immediately call my mother-in-law, and call my mom, and my mother-in-law, she gets here and she gets the baby, and me and my husband head to the hospital. So we get in there, and we get checked in or whatever. So I'm in this room, and we're all talking about whenever I get out, we're gonna go to Gringo's, you know, have some drinks or whatever, and we're gonna go back home. Well, that did not happen. When the doctor came back in, he basically said my blood pressure was through the roof. I don't remember what it was then. I think it was really high. It was really high. What was it? It was definitely higher than one. I don't know. It was really high enough for them not to let me go home. And there was fluid around my lungs and around my heart. So they definitely were not letting me go then. So when they told me that, I was in complete shock. I was like, wow, like, I'm glad that I have an answer, but I'm also like a little nervous. Like, so what exactly does this mean? Like, I've never dealt with this. I've never heard of it. Like, what is going on, child? So after he gave me that news, he put me on some fluid pills. So I was just going to the restroom. It was all coming out. So I got moved to an observant room. I think that's what they called it, OR. I got moved to an observant room, and I was there overnight. My poor husband, he was there with me. It wasn't like the maternity ward. Like, he was in a very uncomfortable chair, and he ended up sleeping on the floor, and I was barely sleeping. It was such an uncomfortable and kind of scary situation. So I spent the night there, and throughout the night they had me hooked up to some sort of heart monitor thing. I had these little things stuck to me all over the place, and then I had the monitor around my neck, so every time I gotta use the restroom, I'm carrying this thing. I'm like, oh Lord Jesus. But I continued to go to the restroom because they gave me the fluid pill, so I was going, and so that morning we were waiting to see my OB and the heart doctor. So I don't remember who I saw first, child. I may have saw the heart doctor first. He said that there was, fluid around my heart and my lungs, but he said that it wasn't like an alarming amount, I guess. So whenever I got out of the hospital, that is when I could go and see him, sort of like an outpatient thing. So I was like, okay, that's good. That kind of eased my mind a bit. So if he say, it's not that serious, and it shouldn't like, take my life like that, then I can relax a little bit and focus on this blood pressure thing. So after that, my OB came, and she said that she knew what it was as soon as she looked at me. She said my eyes, she could tell from my eyelids, they were super puffy, and I guess my eyes may have been a little red. I don't know. But she definitely said my eyelids were really puffy. And she was like, okay, it is preeclampsia, or postpartum preeclampsia. And I was like, wow. She came in and looked at me and got it just like that. And all this time, all these other doctors and nurses were just wondering like, oh, what is it? What is it? What could it be? What could it be? She came right on in, child. Postpartum preeclampsia. That's what it was. So they ended up transferring me back to the maternity ward. And when I tell you, it was a breath of fresh air when we got there. We were both at ease, me and my husband. He was already, super worried, nerves bad. He got to worry about me. And then he got to worry about, Cam being a newborn, only a couple of days old. So it was such a relief when we got back over to the maternity ward, because when we got there, they immediately sprung into action. The nurses, the majority of the nurses I had the day I gave birth were the nurses I had during this postpartum period. So I felt very, very relaxed and relieved, and so did my husband. There was a whole couch or sofa situation in there, so he could sleep a whole lot better now. So, but I immediately was relieved when I got sent back over there and I seen those nurses that had helped me give birth to my child. I knew that I was taken care of because they took great, great care of me on the day of the birth. So I was like, "Ooh, okay, child, I can go ahead and lay back and get some rest, and I let them do what they do. I know I'm going to be okay." And they did just that. They did an awesome job. They took care of me. They drained out all the rest of my fluid. I still am fluid free, not worrying about it. They kept me hydrated, ice water all day long. They gave me blood pressure medicine. I also had to take, what was it? I think it started with an M, magnesia, something like that. They gave me that to help regulate my blood pressure, and that was great. I really wanted to get up out of there. I was in there for like 3 days, I think, and I was missing my child so bad, and I felt bad because he's a newborn, and I was breastfeeding, so I was like, I felt so bad because I felt like I was missing that very important bonding time with my child. Like, I just had him, he's just a few days old, and but I knew that he was in good hands. My mom was watching him, and my mother-in-law, they were taking turns switching out watching him while I was away, and I greatly appreciate that. They were really there for me and Kel. So my blood pressure, it was still a little high when I was discharged, but they felt comfortable enough to let me go home on what was it? It wasn't full-on bed rest, but what was it called? It was like temporary bed rest, or basically they put me on bed rest, but I could still get up to, like, you know, of course, go use the restroom and take a shower, go grab some food or something from the kitchen. But other than that, I was supposed to be in the bed. And during that time, I had my mom, she had taken off like, what, 2 weeks or so from work. So I had her here helping with the baby while I, you know, got my rest. And my mother-in-law, her and my father-in-law did the same. So I had a lot of help during that time, and I thank God for them for that, because I really needed it. That was a tough time, y'all. That was a lot. that was a lot. Between losing 2 liters of blood clots, fluid around my lungs and my heart, blood pressure through the roof, I was too through. But I thank God that I made it through. Like, sometimes, even to this day, I still think, like, what if I just sat there and took the discomfort? Like, it should be going away soon, and I may not be here if I had made that decision to just try to stick it out, because I wasn't aware of how severe it can be to have fluid around your heart, you know. So, but I thank God for the support system and my village that I had during that time. My husband was able to work from home after his paternity leave. He was supposed to go back, but he needed to stay home and basically monitor me, because the hospital, they said that while my blood pressure wasn't through the roof anymore, they still were a little afraid of me having a seizure because of the high blood pressure. So so he stayed home for, like, what was it, 10 to 12 weeks? Yeah, it was a good little minute. So he stayed home with us, and by the time that was over, I was good. I hadn't had any seizures through that time period, so I was okay to keep baby during the day while he was at work. So I did follow up with the heart doctor, and I got an EKG and stress test and all of that. The EKG came back, let me see, the very first one I had was in the hospital. That's when they seen how much I had. The second one, was I in the clear that second EKG? I was in the clear either the second EKG or the third one. And then I had a stress test. Stress test was good. So I have gone back recently. I had another EKG. It turned out normal, so thank God for that. I was having some pain. It's tender to the touch. So I went back. It was time for me to go back anyway. It was my yearly appointment. So I went and I got an EKG. It came back normal, and I told him about the discomfort and the pains I was feeling in these areas, and I told him it was tender to the touch, and he was like, oh, well, it's just inflamed tissue that you have right there, and I could take some ibuprofen or whatever to calm that down. So I was happy that it wasn't any fluid that, you know, came back. So I was like, okay, good. So yeah, that is basically part 2 of it. Me going back to the hospital, waiting almost 2 days to find out what exactly is the problem, what caused, you know, the fluid buildup and the fluid retention, and coming home and adjusting to my new normal, being stuck in bed rest, and it was a lot. So I thank God that I'm past that. It took me a minute to get back to myself. I remember I did say I was 80% of myself on part 1, but I'm definitely back to 100% myself right now. I have been thinking about, you know, baby number 2, and it's a possible sibling for Cameron, but part of me is still kind of afraid, because I know every birth is different. I may not even go through any of that, you know, the second time around, but I don't know, and I can't be too sure. And my husband, he's perfectly fine with just baby number 1. He was pretty shook up after what happened too. So I don't know. We shall definitely see about a possible sibling. But thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate the support. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Like, comment to let me know what you think. If you have a similar story, please let me know. I would love to connect with you. I would love to share, you know, some more about our journeys. If you're a new mom, comment below. Let me know how that's going for you. We all, our community, we need to be here for each other, child, because it is not easy. Being a mom is beautiful. It's the most beautiful journey I've ever been on. I thank God that I was chosen to be a mom. So sometimes it can be a lot, being a mom, maintaining the household, maintaining your marriage if you're married, maintaining your relationship just in general, just trying to keep everything together. It can be tough, so we need to be here for each other, child. We need to stick together. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, like, comment, share, and I will see you guys in the next video.